The Philadelphia 76ers may have emerged from the darkness of a multi-season rebuild, but the process still casts a long, Hitchcockian shadow over the organization. Deposed general manager Sam Hinkie's thoughtful methods continue to be debated. Joel Embiid adopted the handle as a chantable nickname, and Jolly Okafor's current bench-warming plight is amplified by his central role in the controversial strategy. But no one is more inextricably tied to the process than Robert Covington. Mirroring the team's trajectory over the last half-decade, the 26-year-old forward went from a D-leaguer who was ostensibly in Philly to help the Sixers lose to a ball-hawking sharpshooter who earned a 4-year, $62 million extension in mid-November. Yet the man most closely identified with one of the most polarizing rebuilds in modern basketball history never paid much attention to all the furor. The overwhelming narrative of Hinkie's figurative life, death, and elevation to martyred sainthood has subsumed one of the NBA's most inspirational feel-good stories. Through a quarter of the young season, Covington has transformed into one of the league's premier 3-and-D wings, the perfect complement to ball-dominant rising stars Embiid and Ben Simmons. Currently averaging 14.9 points, on a gaudy 61.4% true shooting percentage, 6.2 rebounds, 1.7 assists, and 1.7 steals per game, Covington is among the league leaders in made trifectas and 17th in steals per game. And here's a shocking stat: by ESPN's RPM, he's ranked 4th in the NBA, behind only James Harden, Stephen Curry, and Nikola Jokic. Let's appreciate the rarity of Covington's ascension. The odds of succeeding in the NBA are imposing for anyone, but particularly for undrafted free agents. Only 21 of their accursed ilk have played more than 300 minutes this season, and just a handful are etched-in-stone starters. With respect to contributors like Kent Bazemore, Dwayne Dedmon, Joe Ingles, Tyler Johnson, Wes Matthews, and Sixers teammate T.J. McConnell, Covington is the only one considered a building block on a potential contender. This season Covington's stellar performance is borderline historical for someone who was snubbed in the draft. Since 1989, when the NBA shortened the draft from 7 rounds to its current 2, only 4 undrafted players, Bo Outlaw, Ben Wallace, Darrell Armstrong, and Brad Miller, have posted a higher box plus-minus for a season than Covington's current mark of 3.7, just below Matthews's in 2014-15. Aspiring GMs might note that even defensive studs are prone to slipping through the cracks of conventional scouting. Covington's circuitous path started in Chicago. His family moved to the suburbs when he was 8. His mother was a manager at a sports authority and his father worked at a post office. He credits his parents with instilling in him a strong work ethic, a lesson administered when he was kept off the middle school team after his grades dipped. Early on, Covington got used to being overlooked. After playing for Proviso West High School, only 2 colleges offered Covington a scholarship. He spent 4 years at Tennessee State putting up 17 points and 8 rebounds a game as a senior and then went undrafted in 2013. In a scouting report, Draft Express detailed some of the concerns that NBA teams may have shared at the time: his lack of fundamentals on the defensive end, his passive demeanor on the floor, and his general inconsistency against elite competition are legitimate red flags when projecting him at the next level. Following the 2013 draft, Covington signed with the Houston Rockets but spent most of the season with the three-point heaving Rio Grande Valley Vipers, a team that served as a petri dish for Daryl Morey's grand analytical experiment. In Hinkie's lengthy resignation letter, he described being tormented by his failure to ink Covington to a post-draft deal. In November 2014, Covington signed what would later become known as a notorious Hinkie special, a non-guaranteed, 4-year deal at roughly a minimum salary. The minuscule cap hit made it one of the league's most favorable contracts from a team perspective. I didn't necessarily feel I had a great contract. It was a great contract because I guess people felt like it could be expendable or it wouldn't be hard for a team to go out and get certain pieces, Covington said. But the Sixers recently utilized an undersold benefit when they renegotiated the final year with a $15 million bump, paying him from this year's cap pool and extending his contract for 4 additional seasons at a below-market rate. Basically, everyone won. Ben Falk, who was the Sixers' vice president of basketball strategy during Hinkie's tenure, and now runs an excellent site called Cleaning the Glass, recalled when Covington first joined the relatively barren Philly roster. "When we brought him in, it was pretty apparent we didn't have players like him," he said. "The offense got so much better just having one player who could legitimately be a threat on the court. The question was, is this just in contrast to the rest of the team or is there something real there?" While Covington is a streaky spot-up shooter whose occasional cold snaps have earned the ire of ungrateful Sixers fans, his ability to bombard opponents with a fusillade of threes has never been a question. He has a balanced and fluid release, a feathery ball rotation, and a high release point that allows him to hoist up shots unperturbed by draped defenders. Despite cooling off from a torrid start to the season, he's knocking down 42.5% of his shots from deep, an area from which he takes about 2/3 of his field goal attempts. To be clear, Covington is a specialist. He gets into trouble when he puts the ball on the floor, but he's finishing more effectively than usual at the rim, a likely byproduct of the Sixers' improved spacing and the offensive magnetism of Embiid and Simmons. On November 13th, he exploded for a career-high 31 points against the Clippers on only 12 shots, while going 5 of 8 from distance. A bigger surprise has been Covington's emergence as one of the league's staunchest perimeter defenders. He is one of those rangy, versatile defenders who came en vogue once tweener turned from an epithet into a compliment. Covington has solid footwork and spatial understanding, but what makes him exceptional is the nearly 7'2" wingspan that accompanies his 6'7" frame. He's currently 4th in the league with 3.5 deflections per game, and he led the NBA with 4.2 deflections per game last season. John Wall and Draymond Green tied for second with 3.9. Covington is tied for 17th in the league in steals per game and was, respectively, 6th and 14th in steals percentage over the 2 prior seasons. There are times when his arms simply take over, stripping the ball from driving opponents, tipping passes and pick-and-rolls, and acting as a one-man thicket of limbs in passing lanes. Covington credits the Sixers coaching staff, along with his time in the weight room and studying film, for his defensive improvement, and said he wasn't even aware of his freakish ability to clamp mitts on the ball until the team started monitoring deflections. He takes pride in being tasked with guarding the league's most combustible scorers. Robert Covington is not only part of the story, but someone who deserves a ballad of his own.